Ryan, how you doing? This is Don Beebe of the Buffalo Bills, and I know you love movies, but I hear you may love the Bills even more. Pretty smart guy. But along with Lauren, yeah, we both want to wish you a happy birthday and a Go Bills. Because let me tell you, Ryan, this is the year. So you're going to be celebrating a birthday, and just in a few more weeks, you're going to be celebrating a Super Bowl championship. I got a good feeling about this. Because it's going to go through Buffalo, hopefully. Because Kansas City's got to lose, we know that. And if yours goes through Buffalo, nobody can beat us. So what a birthday gift that would be. So Ryan, God bless you. Lauren cares a lot about you and says you're the best. And go Buffalo.
At the center of the universe, at the border between light and dark, stands Castle Grayskull. For countless ages, the sorceress of Grayskull has kept the universe in harmony, but the armies of darkness do not rest, and the capture of Grayskull is evermost in their minds. For those that control Grayskull will come to power, the power to be supreme, the power to be almighty, the power to be masters of the universe.
Your entire life has been leading to here, hasn't it? Also, like, how many times did you say that into some, like, janky, like, Casio recorder as a kid?
Okay, so true story, the Skull Mountain playset had this weird reverberating, like, microphone on it.
No, it didn't.
So, like, yeah. And so, 100%.
Welcome to the How Could You podcast, everyone. I'm Lauren Tocci.
And I'm Ryan Tocci.
I'm guessing that was your quote for the pod, yes?
Well, I do also love live for the journey, for every destination is but a doorway to another.
It is pretty epic. There's a lot of epic dialogue in this film today.
You know what? This is going to be the most roller coaster ride of putting a movie down and pumping a movie up that we've ever had on this show.
And I think I know what parts of it that you probably enjoy the most and what parts of it you'll take umbrage with, but I'm really excited to talk about this movie. If you are joining us for the first time, we are the How Could You podcast. We started this podcast because we were two people who fell in love in a movie theater and never quite left. We wanted to fill gaps in our film knowledge as two people who are like super movie obsessed. This is not a gap in our knowledge, nor is this a great classic of cinema, but sometimes we just like talking about the movies that we really ride for, even if they are soupy terrible. So welcome everyone. If this is your first time checking us out, thank you.
Is this our first really truly guilty pleasure movie?
No, I think a lot of the movies we cover are pretty guilty pleasure. But can I tell you?
Weekend at Bernie's, maybe?
I'm going to be honest though. Maybe this is arrogance. I have no shame in my game. I feel no guilt about the things that I love. And I have no problem saying I love this movie and it doesn't make me feel bad, and I can love this and love things that are quote unquote high art and not feel bad about myself.
You know, our relationship works really great, and I think it stands on the fact of your confidence compared to my complete lack of confidence.
Because I have a feeling several times during this episode, you're going to be like, guys, no, like, I know it's not good. I'm going to be like, shut up, it is good. So we always start this episode off with some Tocci takes, but before we get there, we were part of a really special event last weekend with Jarden Films. We were really honored to introduce, for the second time it was being shown publicly, the movie The Savior, written and directed by our friend Jeff Harvey, and the premiere of the film that we are associate producers on, co-directed and co-written by Jesse Calavoda, Andrew Sterling McDonald. This movie is called Shiver. If you may remember, a few months ago, we sat down and did a pretty in-depth interview with them, and the thing is, it came to fruition. It is here. Ryan, how are you feeling?
It's damn good.
It's so good.
It's damn good. It's emotional. It's got fright. It's dramatic. It's what they were able to do as filmmakers was really something special. It's a 25-minute, ride, and I mean, anybody listen's gonna go, well, are they biased? Possibly, but no, like, it just is legit good.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, look, obviously we opened talking about that. We're going to be talking about a movie today that is, like, legit trash, but we both love. But, like...
Right, but that we know is trash.
Yeah. And the thing is I think you and I, when called upon, can kill our darlings, and I think, like, we take...
Yeah.
Not to kind of throw in a altered version of a Vanderpump Rules quote, but we take film very seriously. And like, I think that watching this happen, being on set, I think for almost every day of the shoot, me closest to that, I think it's like you're watching this thing in progress and you're starting to get a sense of how you think the story might be told. And in so many ways, it wasn't that. And in so many ways, it subverted what I thought everything was going to look like in like the best possible way. It's like how it came together, what they were able to do. The score, which was entirely composed by Andrew, is so beautiful. Yeah. There's so many, we don't want to spoil anything about the film. This is going to go to film festivals for the next year. We're so proud of our friends.
Yeah, we'll obviously be updating on our Instagram page and on here anytime we hear that it is going to be, somewhere, for somebody to be able to view. I mean, that's the hardest part. We want everybody to see it because we think it's that great.
I want to watch it again.
Yeah, I know, right?
Jesse and Andrew, if you're listening, we want to watch it again.
Yeah, but congratulations to them. I mean, congratulations to the whole cast.
Yeah.
Wes and Madison just crush it in this movie.
Oh gosh, and Brian's chemistry with Wes is so incredible.
Yeah, I mean, all three of them. I mean, and then, to all of our extras that were, this is, we talked about it at the premiere, but there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of generosity that has to go in to make something like this. And, we feel very lucky that we were asked to be a part of it and to see this whole process through. But to see everything from, people's families and the sacrifice that goes there, from friends and family and strangers that just give their time. I mean, we had one day on set where we were there for 8-9 hours just in a hall, and some people had to sit for hours until we needed them just as a background character. And it all comes together, and, just again, it's something that we think we all really believed in the vision of the story that they were telling, and it really was cool to see it up there on the screen and all come to fruition.
And also in the best way, like, not a dry eye in the house. Like,
yeah.
It was really great.
We talked about it. We read the script so many times, and we saw it filmed. I didn't expect to get the emotional impact of it, and then get to see it all up there was, really emotional.
Yeah, there was a scene when we were filming it, Madison and Wes's performance, my eyes started watering, and I was like, oh man. And then when it got in the film, I'm like, oh man, it's so much more even emotional than I thought it was going to be. It's a really great film. So obviously we feel very grateful to that. Please keep following our friends at Jarden Films for all their upcoming projects. They've got a really amazing slate of things that they're hoping to do this year, and we're excited to get to see it. Do you have a Tassie's takes for this episode?
I have kind of a few, but I'm going to go through them very quickly. One is more just a fact. My sister Erica sent me a thing that really blew my mind the other day. Do you realize that if we were to take the time period that Dazed and Confused was filmed to when, the 1976 that it was from, that would be us doing a movie on 2005 today.
Oh, ew, Erica, no thanks.
Like, she gave me the mind blown emoji, and it was rightfully so.
But it's amazing. I'm still somehow 19 years old. I don't understand how this is possible.
So I just wanted to throw that out. I thought that was fun. And then kind of moving over to siblings who offer up good, recommendations. We just got recommended the show Home Economics from our brother-in-law Mike and our sister Jolene. Great show. I mean, we blew through that.
And we don't binge.
No, not really. And it was like, I think within about 2 days, we knocked it out and we caught ourselves up. And just a really fun, good sitcom, very much something you can relate to. And
So you're like 100% the character of Tom. Like, it's like no denying it. If you had to cast me as one of the people of Home Economics, who am I?
Oh, gosh. You fit a couple of roles because you do fit Tom's wife a lot. Marina. And but definitely a lot of pieces of the sister. So, definitely. But, just a really fun show. Great to have a sitcom that's 20 minutes. You get to knock it out, laugh, have a good time with it. So recommend that. And the other one is just to kind of piggyback with the show we're doing today. Because this got so crushed on social media, I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know if we'll talk about it during the episode, but Masters of the Universe Revelation, Kevin Smith's Netflix cartoon of Masters of the Universe that was put out within the last year. A lot of people didn't like it because of direction and choices they made, and I just say that is just complete crud. As a lifelong fan of this cartoon, of this characters, of this universe, they did a great job with it. It was really, really good and highly recommend it. The voice acting's terrific. The animation's terrific. I love the story. Yeah, I understand one little complaint about it, and it's fair, but, where we don't see a lot of He-Man through a lot of it, but it just allowed this universe to see some of these other characters, which I thought was really cool, and to have a little bit more story of that. So that's just me yelling at the internet at the moment, going, no, guys, this was actually really good. Give it its due.
Well, and I think it's the problem is that, like, well, what did you want from it? Just, like, more, like, Masters of the Universe cartoon episodes? We'll just go back and watch the old ones.
Exactly.
Then. Like, didn't you want something a little fresher? I really enjoyed it, and I'm not as devoted a fan of Masters of the Universe, certainly, as you. But I really enjoyed it. My Tossi's Takes is something local that I want people to really check out. You've probably seen us promoting this on Instagram. Unknown Planet Film Society. So this is a really cool concept. It is a subscription-based film series. You pay a flat fee for a year of monthly screenings. The really fun part of this is you have no idea what you're seeing until you show up to the film. I think this is one of the coolest concepts I've heard about in the Lehigh Valley, if not beyond, of something to really bring the film obsessed, as they say, curious and adventurous film goer, to an experience of things that are not often shown, and the surprise of going, I'm going to trust that these two curators, who are Adriana Gober, who I have the immense pleasure of co-curating the First Saturday Horror Series with, and Rob Delaney, who both are incredible film fanatics. They have such an incredible wealth of knowledge. I always find that they will recommend something that I want to explore more, something that, like, a pocket of film culture that I've not investigated yet. They're awesome. I think this is the coolest thing. Please check it out. So this is going to be at Frank Banco Ale House Cinema. So you're supporting a local cinema, and you're supporting something that would promote a really cool and niche film culture in the Lehigh Valley. There are so many of us obsessed in this community with film, and I think it's going to give people a real place to gather. So I am so excited for them. We will be posting about this frequently. Consider subscribing. If you cannot subscribe at this time, but just want to check it out, 3 hours prior to every screening, whatever tickets are available in the auditorium, they will sell. But you only get that opportunity 3 hours before the screening is actually going to happen. So obviously you have to be a little more local, I think, to enjoy that part of it. But you can also join the series and, travel in and make, there's so many fun things to do in Bethlehem. So definitely check this out. Super, super proud of them. Super stoked for what's ahead.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. You think you said it all. It's just a really unique idea, and it's going to be really cool for, adventurous and film-loving people alike.
Yeah, and also, we're going to join it. So, come see us, because we're going to go to the screenings, too. So...
And then come, one day to Nostalgia Cinema.
Yeah, that too. But definitely check out Unknown Planet Film Society.
Yes, okay. Absolutely.
So the other thing we wanted to promote is, if you are vinyl obsessed like we are, Record Store Day is coming up April 22nd. We're going to continue to promote this, but there's only one place you should be on Record Store Day, and that's hanging out with Mary at Compact Disc Center in Bethlehem. Obviously, if you've been listening to the show the past few months, we've been enjoying so much going in there, thumbing through physical media. You may see that our reels upcoming. You may notice that location is the Compact Disc Center. It's always fun to hang out there. Always great conversations. Amazing, amazing collection of things. Mary, like I was saying about Adriana and Rob, her knowledge is infinite. So go in there, get some records, spin those vinyls. Compact Disc Center is a place to be.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is it's not just, it's everything. It's new releases. It's, hard to find stuff. And like you said, it's just all, run by one of the nicest, most coolest people you're gonna meet. So
she rules.
Yeah.
Totally rules. Yeah. And honestly, Record Store Day is always a lot of fun. So April 22nd, as we find out things that they're going to be doing there, any promotions coming up, we will certainly be sharing them on social media. Check that out.
And if while you're there you want to check out, we do have a little our picks for some of the movies that you can buy there. So check that out while you're there also.
I call this episode Lauren really good at promoting the awesome things her friends were doing and completely forgetting that we had things at those places.
That's because our friends do a lot cooler things than we do.
Listen, and many of you who are listening, we were surrounded by very, very cool people. So
Yes.
thank you all for being awesome and letting us be the dorks that get to hang out with you.
Yes, we love being in your shadow, so thank you.
But, no shadow looms larger than the shadow of Castle Grayskull. So let's talk about Masters of the Universe.
Yes!
Ryan, this is your birthday episode.
This entire podcast has been building up to this moment.
It's like, last year you picked 7. This feels like or was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Last year was Vision Quest.
All right, so you've picked 7, Vision Quest, and now Masters of the Universe. I think that it's the sum of your personality these past 3 years. So tell us, why Masters of the Universe?
Well, it was down between this and Garden State, and I just felt like Garden State was just going to take us a whole road no one wanted to go on now.
Nobody needs to listen to live therapy.
Why would I pick this? Because it is just everything a 7-year-old kid who loved, He-Man could want. And as I grew up going, oh, wait, it wasn't that good, was it?
Oh, you shush. I have a question. I'm assuming you saw this in theaters?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah, of course I did. Listen, I was like most kids during that 3 to 4 year period of time, where Masters of the Universe was the biggest thing in the world. Although I always called them He-Men. So they were just all He-Men to me.
Can't we be he people?
So, like I said, I obsessed with the toys. I had 2 awesome parents who just totally went all in with it, and allowed me to have this obsession as a kid with, Masters of the Universe. And, yeah, so of course, when the film came out, I remember legitimately going with my parents to go see it. So
and I love that. I have some questions for you.
Please.
How did you get into Masters of the Universe? Was the toy bought for you first, the cartoon, or is it a chicken or the egg?
I actually don't know that answer. I don't remember when it first got introduced to me, to be honest with you, which is kind of funny. My guess would be it's the toy, because for those that don't know, this is one of those situations with Mattel was the toy came before everything else. The cartoon essentially became the advertisement for the toy. And so my guess is probably at some point I got the, hot item toy as a kid. And then from there it just started to build this, build all of the, my collection. And then obviously I would watch the cartoon. I will say one thing as I talk about this show is I love Masters of the Universe. I've always as a kid, even growing up, even in my teen years. It's not like I was buying the toys or anything, but still always had an affinity for it and everything like that. But I do not have this wealth of facts. I'm not an encyclopedia for the, all the history of the show.
So we're not going to have to hear there's so many documentaries about this.
Let me talk about.
I know this about it.
This character showed up in episode 14.
Which also, if that's how you fandom, no judgment.
Yeah, please. No. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Because I'm sure there's some things like that we are. But so that was my thing with it. And then I watched the cartoon, and then I just had, I had play sets and things, and just I had the collection.
Other than He-Man, favorite figurine that you had or action figure from Masters of the Universe?
Oh, a good question. So my guess would be off the top of my head would be Stinkor.
Sure, right?
Only because I thought it was so funny that because essentially there was Merman. Merman was one of the major, and so what they ended up doing was making a toy that was literally just the Merman character painted to look like a skunk.
Yeah.
That was literally the only thing that they changed on it. But they gave it a smell.
What did it smell like?
bad. It
Did it smell like burnt erasers? That's what I imagine.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, I'm going to be like, it smelled exactly like a skunk.
Skunks
as
smell
a
like
kid,
burnt
in my
erasers,
head,
yeah.
it was like, it's skunkcore. So, from an action figure standpoint, I would say that. I always loved Ram Man. As a kid, I don't know who he was. I can't remember, but a friend of our family's who would always call me Ram Man. So I thought that was the coolest thing.
Okay, we're bringing that back. I'm changing your contact in my phone to Ram Man.
But the ultimate character who's going to get mentioned a bunch of times about this during this movie, even though they're not in this movie,
Oh, I know.
is Orko.
I know.
I mean, Orko was the great character.
Your dog's named Orko.
Yes.
So
Our dog of 17 years, Orko, just the cutest, best little toy poodle you would ever see, and ruined me for all dogs after that.
Oh yeah, that's your excuse. So I have to ask additionally then, are there any action figures from the set that you never got?
You know this answer.
I know, but I thought it'd be fun for the audience to hear.
Yes. So I have nearly the entire collection of Masters of the Universe figures. No, they are not mint in the box, so no reason to run over and rob our home.
Our Ram Man, or your Ram Man, is on our bar cart.
I forgot about that. Yes. So here's the funny story. I had a majority of the characters. Then, in early 2000s, eBay became a thing. And my dad became, I think this was his gambling. He got really into...
Because this is like the Wild West of eBay before Buy It Now.
This is before Buy It Now, make an offer.
Yeah.
This was, and my dad, he didn't know the trick of you wait until the last second and then you put your bid in so you don't get into a bidding war, right? He would get into a bidding war, overpaid for things probably. A lot of great my dad eBay stories in those early years. I think he bought a car at one point. But
was it a Masters of the Universe car?
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But he got obsessed with trying to get this collection, to finish the collection for me. So we got a bunch of those. But then at that point, you were getting lots and lots. So you were getting doubled up characters. Anyway, my really long-winded way of getting to the only character I have never gotten. And hope to one day is still, even though I'm sure it's really expensive now, is Scareglow. Scareglow came really late in the action figures. So I was starting to not age out of toys necessarily, because He-Man toys started to change around when I was 8 or 9. I probably played with toys longer than I should have, although I'd turn around and go, yeah.
Look at the space we're in.
Those are collectibles. But Scareglow was awesome. I mean, it was just this skeleton that looked neon and purple, and he glowed in the dark, and he just looked menacing. So, yeah. So that was the, on Revelations, he's the character, they actually put him on the character on Revelations, and he's voiced by Tony Todd, which is just awesome.
Yeah,
so.
you got really stoked when that happened.
Yeah, so that would be my long-winded answer with that. Greatest toy I ever got?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the greatest, one of two of the greatest Christmas presents, and I'm not sure if we've ever had that conversation on here, but it was the Eternity playset. It was just amazing. I mean... Is
the Eternia playset, is that the one where it's it had the ramps and stuff, the stuff that came outside of it? Yeah.
I was at an age of, did the bells still ring for me? And, all I wanted that year from Santa was this Eternia, because I knew that this thing was far more expensive than anything, my family could afford, and far too big for anything, but that would be this ultimate toy, right? The ultimate gift, my Red Ryder, my, Nintendo, all those things. And sure enough, Christmas morning,
Right
Santa
on.
came through as usual, and it was essentially like 3 castles in one, and it had this motorized vehicle that drove around, and they all connected. Pretty epic, giant playset, like bigger than me. Like, I think those who weren't into Masters of the Universe but into G.I. Joe, like, I think people always talk about the aircraft carrier for G.I. Joe, that was kind of like, that was G.I. Joe's thing. This Eternia was the Masters of the Universe.
Well, Brian, thank you for that trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
So this
You
movie
came here
doesn't...
for a movie, huh?
This movie doesn't have Eternia, and it doesn't have Snake Mountain. It does have Castle Grayskull.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about this film. Opening credits. Superman much?
The great Bill Conte.
Well, and the crazy thing is, yes, the great Bill Conte. So if you don't know this, he composed the score for Rocky, for Your Eyes Only, The Karate Kid, this film, Private Benjamin, which I just think is fun to say.
Superman, Star Wars, some Star Wars, right?
No, not Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
No. Don't you? Come on now. But
no, that's right. I'm sorry. Superman. I think
Superman
he did
4.
Quest 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
But so this opens. There's no doubt that has to be an influence. How pumped were you in the theater? Like, take us into little Ryan's body and just be like, were you just like filled with electricity?
Yes.
That opening narration.
This is what I will say. I remember being super excited in the theater. I love the movie. Super excited to see these characters. I will tell you this. It was one of the few moments of starting to learn about filmmaking, of going, expectations can sometimes get away from you because,
Nothing makes me happier than when people talk about, like, the origins of, like, how did I learn about filmmaking? You're like, well, Masters of the Universe.
Subvert my expectations. And what I mean by is, yes, as a kid of loving these characters, I wanted to see all those characters. Like, where the hell were they? Like, so that part, I will say, but that didn't take away from the grand scale of it, like you said, like this thing. My parents, though, I remember hearing them talk about this movie after and realizing that maybe this movie wasn't as good as my little brain, processed it.
Well, and I can kind of understand that, because I would have to think a lot of kids who went to go see this were probably confused, because obviously, as we've already hinted at, like, there's a major character who never appears in the movie, and that's Orko.
Yeah.
What do you remember? Like, why was it technology?
It's a technology thing. So, yes, the character of Gwildor is legit just a replacement for Orko.
Oh, I have thoughts about Gwildor.
As everybody should. It was. So I'm sure we'll talk about it here, but this film was cash-strapped the entire time. And so 2 major decisions are made pretty early in production of this, and those are, one, there are certain characters that are just not going to appear. One being Orko. They didn't have the technology or budget to really...
Did they not have Jim Henson's phone number? He could have made that happen.
Well, right. I'm saying that, and I'm like, I feel like Roger Rabbit had to come out right around this time as well. So,
but the thing is, what's crazy to me about this, like, Star Wars comes out before this. You could have done that practically. I think that's, like, I've seen that line so many times, and I'm like, come on.
And then the other character is Battle Cat Cringer, is the other decision of, we can't afford to somehow create that character in this universe. So those are the 2 major character budget cuts immediately. Obviously, we can talk about the fact that there are a slew of other characters that they choose not to bring into this film, but the other major budgetary decision that's made early on is to put it on Earth.
Yeah.
And that's essentially because they couldn't afford to create Eternia. I mean, now I know you said there's no Eternia. Eternia is the overarching place that they are.
See, like,
it's not a specific place in this film. It is the whole that's where they are.
But you don't see
Well, when
you see inside the throne room.
When Skeletor is doing his hologram projection, and you just see the guys randomly standing in the desert.
That's the desert.
That's
Eternia.
Could be Dune. But. So the reason they end up choosing to do Earth is literally, which is
Well, and part of it too was like the miniatures, like to show like the overhead shots of Earth were taken from the set of Ghostbusters and Blade Runner. Like the budget
that's fantastic.
was, yeah, like that's, so when you're seeing the overhead shots of Earth, that's what that is. It's cobbled together miniatures from those two films.
If you squint just right, you might be able to see a Stay Puft in Eternia. No, I agree. Yes. So those are the two major decisions, which obviously makes this film ridiculous in many ways, especially the putting it on Earth. But, you know, it is what it is. It's unfortunately canon just could not afford this movie. It's why we also see Castle Grayskull in the opening narration as a matte painting. I mean, there's no set there.
What do you think about the overall look of Castle Grayskull in this film? Now, granted, understanding that it's a matte painting, do you like their interpretation of it?
Yeah, the matte painting is beautiful. Like, that would be very cool, like... You know, this isn't like a hint. I'm just saying.
It feels like it is.
This podcast has just become my way of trying to put out all the things that I want in the world. The matte painting is really beautiful. I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't look specifically like the cartoon, but that's okay. I mean, you're making a live action. Everything's not going to look the same. But no, I think that matte painting is beautiful. I think they could have used some of that more in the film for different portions of it. You know, the fact that we don't get like a Skull Mountain and things like that, we should have at least seen some of that, just to a little fan service. We need fan service sometimes. It sometimes goes overboard, but we need some of that. But no, I thought it's really nice. And yeah, you're talking about going back to that score. Wow, yeah, I mean, it's the Superman.
It's 100% the Superman score. And I think I can kind of understand it. It's like you have this property, which was so financially successful. You've got the backing of Mattel, or at least the rights from Mattel, but Canon Films as a company, which is who produced this film, you know, this is a company that folds not long after this, which I'm sure at some point we'll talk about kind of the circumstances around this, but they didn't have the money to be able to do this, you know, as well as they probably could have. I am curious, and I'm sure we'll talk about in the potential sequel, you know, requel, remake, reboot, you know, what this could have looked like if it was with a studio that had the kind of financial backing. It's shocking to me that this wasn't with a more major studio, given what a major property this was. You have to wonder how much this stunts the growth of Masters of the Universe as a whole.
So the rights of this actually got bought up by a producer called Ed Pressman, who actually bought the rights pretty close after this toy line came out. So it was before the cartoon was even created.
Oh, wow. So,
you know, I don't know if that is ultimately, you know, sometimes giving up those rights can come back to haunt you. Now, I know Mattel has had a lot of say with certain aspects of things, but that, I think, already kind of, you know, kind of locked them in a little bit with, you know, with Pressman and where he was going to go with it.
So the first scene of this movie, so after you get that great opening narration and opening credits, we first get introduced to, you know, Skeletor and Evelyn. Do you want to talk Evelyn first, or do you want to talk Skeletor first?
Actually, what I'm going to talk first is the throne room, because we should talk about that immediately, because yes. I gave you a list of scenes from this movie, a breakdown, and there are 7 that I broke it down to, 7 throne room scenes. And the reason why that's important is we talked about the fact that, you know, obviously they had to put this on Earth because of budgetary reasons, so the throne room is where all their money goes. It's literally, at the time, was one of the most, if not the most expensive set ever made. It
was the biggest set in 40 years in Hollywood.
Yes, and they had to knock, I think they had to like knock certain things down just to create this.
So the production designer, William Stout, who did the production design for this, First Blood, and The Mist, the 2007 The Mist, when they created it, they were creating it in like 2 separate like sound stages, and in order to completely create so it would look like one throne room, they had to knock the wall between the sound stages because of how expansive it got, which is also a credit to so the set decorator for this, his name is Daniel Gluck. He also worked on Flight of the Navigator.
Yes!
I thought you would like that. And Wrath of Khan. So part of what you're seeing in that, and I'm curious how much Daniel Gluck either inspire, how much control he had with this, because I'm just thinking about the sets and like, right, because he also did don't yell it. He also did Star Trek for the Voyage Home. Like, I don't want to hear it. I love that movie. But like, I'm curious, like, how much influence, like, how, like, what that partnership was like, because it feels like how epic that set is, you know, really comes from someone who has like a great sci-fi mind and can kind of envision, like, you know, because like that's the thing about Masters of the Universe, it's doing this like very weird thing. There's something about it that feels very like Conan the Barbarian, something that feels kind of medieval but also feels sci-fi, and you've got to meld all of those influences together in this
very much so.
grand set.
Yeah.
How cool would it have been to be there on that set? I mean,
yeah.
come on.
That set is beautiful, and that's the thing. Like, there are a lot of things we're going to poke fun at, things that we're going to just kind of even, you know, quote unquote put down, but there are a lot of things I do genuinely, even now today, unironically love about this movie. And one of those is this set. They get the most use out of it. It's the most, listen, it's not a direct interpretation of anything that I remember specifically from the cartoon, but it is definitely has the vibe and the feel of what it should look like and where you are and that universe. So yeah, I love this set. You know, I know that I had to use it many times for a lot of different reasons, and some interesting things that happen to it later, but it's really cool.
Well, and one of the things I thought was interesting, that part of the influence here with the film was they were like, well, it's not based off the cartoon, it's based off of the action figures. But I also, and which I think can be kind of a cheap response, because I think so much, again, we know that had to do with budget as to why they did the film the way that they did. But one of the things I thought was really interesting about the production design of that throne room is they said, like, part of the design with Castle Grayskull is you have to understand that someone who is inherently good or someone who is inherently evil can rule in Castle Grayskull, and because of that, it has to look like it could house both.
Yeah.
So that's why so much of it can look like things that lean heroic, but so much of it, so they said if you take, like, essentially the set and you cut it in half, like, vertically, you can see the influences of, like, up on high, the heroic elements, and down low, you can kind of see the more, like, evil elements.
Yeah. What I love about this is, and kind of, you know, piggybacking off that, is just like, this is a straight up just good versus evil type, you know, movie. Like, there's no ambiguity. Excuse me.
Ambiguity.
Thank you. Blah, blah, blah.
We're talking about Masters of the Universe. It's okay.
of you know, oh, some characters might lean one way or anything like that. I like that it's just straight up that.
So let's talk villainy.
Yeah.
Frank Langella's Skeletor. 10 out of 10?
Absolutely. 100%. No. Anything else I can say about it is this character, they nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great, the look is phenomenal.
Yeah.
His line delivery is great. Some of the lines, I just wanted to write down all of Skeletor's lines are just epic.
What's that one line he has is so malicious? It's towards the end of the movie where he, like, essentially asks, like, He-Man, like, is being good as lonely as being evil? Like,
tell me about the loneliness of good, He-Man. Is it equal to the loneliness of evil?
Like, come on!
Yes, absolutely.
Is that Bill Shakespeare in the writing room?
So, I mean, you know, whoever was writing the script got these parts, like, right. It's, listen, you one thing they lost from the, you know, again, using the cartoon and the comparison is there's a little more playfulness, obviously, on the cartoon. I mean, it was an 80s kids cartoon. Skeletor can be a little more jokey.
He was more
and
humorous, yeah.
They take that out of it, and I have no problem with it. Like I said, the look is amazing, and it holds up today. Just rewatching it this week, I was like, this is just perfect. Like, no, it doesn't have all the coloring of the costume and things like that, but he's so good. You know, Frank Langella is just doing a great job about it. It's really known that he ends up taking this role because and he loved this role, and one of the reasons was he wanted to do it for his son. He had, I believe, a 9-year-old son, again, huge into the Masters of the Universe, and wanted to do something for him. So it was something that he really gave into. And I'll use this really quick right now as a moment that we can just kind of get this out of the way. There are 2 individuals that we know of and that are associated with this film that do have some sordid past, and they're not, you know, we want to be careful how much we wax poetically about what they did in this movie or didn't do this movie. And Frank Langella is one of them. You know, and here's the thing, it's reprehensible what he's been accused of and everything. So it's a shame, that we're going to sit here and have to talk about, another actor and another character and try to talk positively about it while knowing that the actor could be just a really,
hey, artists, don't be scumbags.
Right.
But, also, I will say, if we look at this performance, and the Frank Langella thing is pretty recent, the director's thing is harder to deal with. I'm not praising the direction of this movie for a second.
Well,
so,
no, let's just get this out of the way really quick, and then we can get back to all the fun stuff. Gary Goddard, who directed this movie, doesn't have a lot of credits, but he was a major producer. What I will kind of put to here is he was very associated with Bryan Singer. So if you know the Bryan Singer stuff, you're going to know the Gary Goddard stuff. Also, Anthony Edwards, who most people, obviously know of out there, wrote a pretty tough read and letter about Gary Goddard and, what happened with him as kids with Gary Goddard. So obviously this, that portion of all of this is really tough. So that's going to be the last time we talk about Gary Goddard's name on the show and episode, because it's, what he's accused of is just horrific. So never the fun stuff. Unfortunately, being fans of this type of art and medium, and as we get, things more come to light that probably should have many years ago, it's tough. And so you have to kind of navigate through that. So this, unfortunately, does not get spared of that either.
Well, and I think also, too, so everyone listening understands, we feel like a responsibility to it because, again, we're fans of film, but it's so important to bring to light the darker aspects of film culture.
Absolutely.
So hopefully going forward that these are safer, more equitable spaces. And we've talked about this a lot. There are a lot of films from the 80s we've wanted to cover that we're like, oh man, this just got so much ish that it's it would not be fun to cover. This is a movie that I think succeeds because of Dolph Lundgren, because of production design, because of Frank Langella's performance, because of Meg Foster's performance. There are a lot of things I think really work in this. And going forward, let's talk about some more of the stuff that doesn't, although so let's talk Meg Foster. Yeah. Let's talk Evil Lynn.
I like talking Meg Foster.
Who doesn't? Those eyes.
Evil Lynn. Yes.
It's gorgeous. Pierce right into the soul.
Between They Live and her as Evil Lynn just will always be an icon in this household.
Yeah.
I will jokingly say my mom always used to joke about that was one of my dad's favorite actresses.
Don't blame him because those eyes though.
Yes. Her portrayal as Evil Lynn, terrific. She nails exactly what you need from that character.
Well, I read an interview with her where she talked about so much of this was based upon the progression that naturally happens with the Lady Macbeth character, that she wanted something that would kind of reflect that of what is it to stand by this person who has these particular designs and you're kind of helping it but you're not being recognized for it, and how much of that evil is transferred to you and how much of that is a personal choice. I thought it was a really fascinating approach to the character, maybe why it comes through so well.
Yeah.
So, and we get to spend all that time.
And a good rapport with the Evil Lynn and Skeletor, I think, has just a really good, working rapport in the film.
Which then takes us to He-Man. And, He-Man in, you saying Eternia, I'm calling it Dune for the rest of the pod. I've got qualms.
Our hero shot.
Yeah, I've got qualms.
Go ahead. I'm not going to probably argue with most of them.
I want Prince Adam in the Page Boy. Give it to me. I need to see him ripped He-Man all the time. It takes away the power when he gets the sword later on. Show me him. White tights, pink tunic. I need to see the Prince Adam part and then the transition into He-Man.
Do you need the helmet hair too? Or
that's why I said the Page Boy. That's what it's called.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That is literally what the hairstyle.
I thought that's what the outfit was considered. I don't know.
No, the hairstyle's called a Page Boy.
Oh, okay, got it. You're not wrong. I mean...
What's with this phenomenal mullet that Dolph Lundgren has? You need unfortunate hair to play.
Yeah, so, okay, talking about that aspect of it, I agree with you. I think there's a missed opportunity not to have, It's laziness, I'm going to say, and probably, again, budgetary reasons
also,
that you skip that.
Dolph Lundgren had a lot of input into the overall look of He-Man. There's, like, a lot with, like, he changed, like, what the boots would look like, how his hair would look like. He had a lot of input of, like, what the physicality should look like of He-Man. So that might be an influence here, where he was like, I'm not putting on the tunic.
He should have... All right, couple of things. One, why does He-Man have a cape? Get rid of the cape. We don't need a cape.
Okay, so this is a Bernstein Bears thing. I kept going, does he have a cape?
Yeah, no reason for He-Man to have a cape. One.
It gets caught.
Yeah. The rest of the outfit's fine. I don't have an issue with the rest of the outfit.
You mean his bare skin?
Fair. I mean, I do like that they just strip him down of that completely by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not too different than what we see in the show and the action figure is. My bigger issue here is, I'm just going to say it now instead of later, is could they not get a lighter sword? Dolph Lundgren looks so uncomfortable the entire movie with all of the, prop pieces. Like the sword especially, he looks like he can barely swing it.
And I'm going to be very honest, I did notice that. I'm like, why does he look like he has a hard time with that sword? And then I'm like, is that a character choice? Is it too heavy? I can't think it's too heavy. Look how yoked that guy is. Like, he is he is in peak physical condition. It has to be that he just didn't know how to handle the sword. Like, I have to think that's it. Because
I don't
that
know,
takes
because
specific
some
training.
of the bigger guns that he has to use he looks just as uncomfortable.
Maybe he needed one of those things. What's those things you use in your hands to, like, help with your grip?
Fingers?
No, shut up. It's like that little exercise tool thing that, like, helps to get your wrist strength up.
I know what you're talking
grip.
about. It's, that probably would have been 1984.
This is what I'm saying. He obviously didn't have one on set. Budgetary
Shake
cuts.
weight?
I mean...
So, yeah, I'm going to go... The other thing we're going to talk about here with it is Dolph Lundgren's voice. So, the plan was... So, they take him, obviously, from Rocky IV. So, he's got a look. I don't really have an issue with Dolph Lundgren playing the character. He's got that look.
You can't. He's perfect.
Yeah. So...
Except the hair.
They wanted to dub his voice in this. That was always this plan that they were going to do. They end up, what they do though is Dolph Lundgren ends up putting in his contract that he gets 3 chances to do the dialogue. So 3 times he can do the dubbing over of his own voice.
That's some really specific terms, Drago.
So essentially what ends up happening is, because, again, we're going to end up talking here about the fact that this movie ends up going over budget, much like this podcast probably today, and over length is what I mean, but they run out of time to essentially redub his thing, so they just have to stick with his voice. I'm glad. I would be annoyed today in 2023 if I'm watching this and he was dubbed over.
Yeah, because, I don't think it matters. I think it's the physicality of He-Man that matters. I don't think it's necessarily the voice, because it wasn't going to sound like the voice actors anyway from the cartoon. Maybe that's just a personal feeling on that necessarily. But I think it's interesting that Dolph Lundgren has very openly said, I'd make a cameo in the new He-Man movie, or I'd play He-Man, because, I think the dude wants, a second shot at this.
But he says this is the low point of his career.
He does. I think he wants to do it again. I think he's like, guys, look at me. And listen, we met him at a con. I'm going to say, the thirstiest moment of the podcast starts now. Dude is in great shape.
He's got a physicality to him.
He is a
sure.
bear of a man, and he looks great. We took a picture. It looks like we're a very loving couple. He's a very nice man. But
it's our nephew Patrick and me on the side as the couple Dolph and Lauren are getting their picture taken.
But I think it's interesting that he sees this low point, because in so many ways I'm like, you're kind of one of the things this movie gets the most right. It's like you and Skeletor.
Yeah.
And then it starts to, I think Man-at-Arms, I think they do a great job with, except they make his defining characteristic his need for food throughout the entire movie.
No way. Duncan rules, man. Man-at-Arms is so darn good.
I love him, but I'm saying they make his defining characteristic that he is hungry.
It's funny.
Once, twice, 3 times annoying.
Once, twice.
No, we're not doing a Garden State pod. Stop it. But we do get the introduction to Man at Arms and Tila, who I love.
Oh, good. Okay. I find Tila a little... I don't have an issue with her on one end, but I don't necessarily think she stands out either.
So I think for me, the reclamation of this is because she's so great in the cartoon that it just makes me love her appearance in this more, but
yes.
I don't know if that's like a...
Yeah, Tila and
like a retcon thing.
You're talking about Master Universe Revelations,
yes.
right, when you say that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the character is so good, despite what fanboys may say.
Yeah. And then we get introduced to the character that I take the most issue with in this movie, as everyone should, Gwildor and the Cosmic Key.
All right, so
sounds
Gwildor,
like a porn title.
I mean,
let's just be honest.
The easiest way to say this is this was definitely a production meeting of going, well, we can't do actual Orko, so what do we do? Well, let's just do a cross between Orko and Willow. Like, it's just...
And land kind of near Leprechaun. Do you not think at any moment in this movie that Gwildor is going to be like, kind of a rank pervert? Like, I'm going to be honest, Gwildor has a vibe. He's got a vibe. I don't trust Gwildor.
No, absolutely
not. I do not trust Gwildor.
I think Gwildor is extremely annoying as a character, and one of the low points of the movie, 100%.
He's suspicious. I don't like him. I don't think he's...
He gets a little better on the back end of the movie, but especially the beginning, he's just really
honestly,
bad.
At the beginning, if you're like, at some point the script was written that he was secretly working with Skeletor, I would have been like, it tracks. Super suspicious.
Yeah. I'm not, and the Cosmic Key, I mean, the MacGuffins of all MacGuffins.
Listen, I know we're trying to do this somewhat orderly, but I've got to ask. So you find that thing in a cemetery, Kevin, and you just think like it's a Casio keyboard? You're not knowing that that's immediately something you shouldn't be touching? It looks like a nuke!
All right, so here's my question with this. So, again,
that plays
we're
tones!
going to start, because we are already deep into the podcast, so we probably should jump around a little bit more. So, talk about that. One of the questions I had for you is what was the 1987 Japanese synthesizer game like? That everyone just makes this assumption that this thing is, a musical instrument from Japan.
So, I was an infant, so I can't speak to it historically, but what the film tells me is that everyone was like, oh yeah, obviously this is what they look like. I'm like, what synthesizer looked like that? Absolutely zero.
But I also
Absolutely
agree
zero.
with you with Kevin of going, on one end, Kevin's like, no, this is a Japanese synthesizer. On the other end, Kevin makes the remark of, look at that hole. So Kevin obviously also thinks it fell from the sky.
And I think that's we're still, at war with Russia in a cold way, and you're not thinking maybe I shouldn't touch this thing that looks like it fell from the sky and doesn't look like any technology I've ever seen before. I'm backing away.
For the record, Detective Lubick, that's the first thing he says. He thinks it's Russian.
Okay, he does say that. Love Detective Lubick, no notes.
I mean,
hilarious.
James Tolkien, 100% all the time. He, in this movie, he has dialed it up.
It's like he went, no one's being loud enough. It's like they weren't making the bong noises from the Cosmic Key on set, and he's like, we gotta ramp this up, because Dolph's playing this kind of low, and I want to be up high.
Because it just makes me think of, what does he mean to He's like, throw in eight
different kinds of smoke.
That is...
He's throwing 50 kinds of smoke.
I don't know if there is an actor that has a better 3 roles than Tolkien within Back to the Future, Master of the Universe, and Top Gun in that period of time. I mean, just the dude is at an 11, and I love it.
Please don't get mad at me. I forgot he's the principal in Back to the Future.
What?
Until you just said that.
You know what? You're a
You're
slacker.
No wonder I love him so much. It's just, he's great.
By the way, everybody just turned off the podcast at this point and went, they're frauds.
Fine, I'll take my hits where I can take them. I gotta talk about Kevin. I hate Kevin. No, I don't hate Kevin. That's mean. I think
A little bit.
It is me.
A little bit.
Here's the thing. Kevin is so obsessed with this cosmic key. He is 100% like gaslighting Julie this entire movie. Julie, rightfully so. First off, I don't think they make it. I think she's like, hey, my parents are alive. I no longer need you as my tragedy date. So bye. Because the way she looks at He-Man, no judgment here, but the way she looks at He-Man and the way he cuddles her ever so gently, it's just, Kevin's days are numbered.
Well, judging by how you just talked about getting a photo op with him, I'm not going to say that Julie is probably in the wrong.
Because Julie lives in a small town in Texas and works at a barbecue joint, and at this point thought she had lost both of her parents, and she's ready to get some strange. She was going up north, and she wanted to see what she could see. And she has seen He-Man, and there's no going back.
Are we gonna? I need a T-shirt of Rudy's ribs and chicken.
How you don't have that is remarkable to me.
Yeah, no. First off, the Julie and He-Man thing, I don't disagree. There's some moments. I also love the line by Teela when He-Man's like, "Did you guys have any luck?" And she goes, "Nope, but it looks like you did."
Because, okay, so this is Courtney Cox. This is her second movie role.
It's the second. Okay, I thought it was the first.
No, so it wasn't, because, like, I was curious about that, too, because I think I kind of made the assumption there was another film. It was smaller that she did before this. It was called, I think it's Down Twisted. It's like, it did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the next year's birthday episode.
Yeah. No. But she, she's already danced with Bruce at this point in her life.
That's why she's going back to Jersey in this movie.
She was like, I met this boy, and he had a bandana, and we danced, and it was really magical. Yeah. But now I think she's seen He-Man and is like, what is this life? Like, I don't need Kevin. I've had Bruce, and I've had Prince Adam. Yeah. Kevin's screwed.
All right, yeah, let's talk. Kevin, to me, I get so angry at this. Well, one, I don't think I realized until this viewing that they actually are high school students.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I'm sure at some point, I just don't think I thought about it. Like, to me, they always seemed older. Like, I mean, I was 7 years old. They seemed old when I watched this,
Facts.
And then just the fact of how kind of certain things are going, it made me think. But, yeah, so your girlfriend that you love is going, across the country, leaving you. She gets in for your last night together, and you say, oh, you have time to come to my sound check?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for this wild night out at your sound check at this high school gymnasium.
And then leaves her at the sound check.
Kevin doesn't care, and she knows it, man.
I don't blame her for going to Jersey.
The only reason Kevin and her are dating is because they were bonded together in tragedy, and he knew, I've got my claws in her now, and this is why he's so freaked out about her leaving. But, like, Kevin, show the lady a nice night. I don't know what you do in your dusty Texas town, but there's stuff.
She even brought her own dinner.
Yeah.
Come on, Kevin.
Kevin,
all right. So, yeah, Kevin, another low point.
How much
Put him in the category with Gwildor.
Okay, in all honesty,
yeah.
What do you feel about the Earth storyline? Is this like wish fulfillment, He-Man could come here, or is this, I'm so frustrated every time we cut back to Earth?
This is a Halloween ends moment for me of going, well, I can't change it, so I have to accept what I have now.
The making of every favorite film.
No, I don't like it. I mean, again, you have just an expansive universe that you can deal with a rogues gallery of characters, and you choose to put it on Earth with... Because, again, jumping ahead, this movie ends about Julie and Kevin's storyline, or really Julie's. It was a Masters of the Universe movie. I don't need to see the happy ending for Julie. It's a Masters of the Universe movie. So no, the Earth thing is such a cop-out, but at the end of the day, this is what I have. We're sitting here how many years later? We still have never gotten another He-Man movie. So this is what I got. So I will accept it on Earth. I will accept that we got to see He-Man and Skeletor walk two roads of the Earth. The Earth.
Did Jumanji steal their ending from this movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Moving on. We don't need to talk about that anymore.
I also believe that Back to the Future 2 stole hoverboarding from this film.
You're going to be on an island with that. No one's come running to your defense that anyone stole from this in a significant way like that.
You literally just said Jumanji.
You know what? That was 30 seconds ago. I don't even know that Lauren anymore. All right, so so we have this like intro. We have the mercenaries have come to Earth.
You mean the mercenaries intro that was essentially dodgeball?
You can dodge a cosmic key. You can dodge a ball.
Blade.
Okay.
Sarad.
What's Blade's deal? 80s?
Grimaces. So, the thing we need to talk about Blade really quick is... So, Blade was played by Anthony D. Longus. I believe I have that. He actually ended up being the choreographer for the sword fights in this movie.
Oh, okay.
So, he does all of that. And he actually ends up... I don't think this... He's actually the... choreographs all the whipping in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Like...
Can I ask, what is that conversation at a cocktail party? Hey man, how's it going? What have you been up to? I've just been like choreographing. Oh, what have you been choreographing? Like some whippings? Cool, man, I'm going to go over here and get some dip.
He obviously does, the whip scene in this movie. They end up putting him in there. And so he choreographs the whole Blade and He-Man fight. The other major thing to just talk about him is he is actually the one that is in the sword fight with Skeletor. He is actually playing Skeletor in the last fight scene, choreographs that, and plays Skeletor in that scene. So, 80s Blade. My rant about this is, again, you have, from this Trapjaw, Scareglow, Merman, Too Bad, I'm just blanking. There's 1,000 villains. Hordak, like, you could bring Hordak in and his crew.
Oh, I love Hordak's vibe.
Like, there are so many characters that you can bring in, and you choose to create 3 new characters. You call him the Beastman. All right, Beastman is legit from the cartoon, but he's not called the Beastman. But all right, fine, we at least have somebody that we know.
I like that one article just pisses you off, that you're like, it's not even the same now.
Then you have, Sarad, and then you have Karg. And I have to ask you right now, Karg, who is winning at the worst character in this movie and most annoying character, Karg or Gwildor?
Gwildor.
I have to go Karg. First off, who gave him a fur mink soul?
Okay, so here's the thing with Karg. He's got he's a really heavy mouth breather kind of vibe. Fine. He sneers a lot. There's not a lot going on there. I think the problem is Gwildor just has an aura around him that freaks me out. I don't know what it is, but and I know he's supposed to probably be endearing and adorable like Orko, but he's not. He's not Orko. He's not cute. And when he messes up, I don't find it charming. Like when Orko messes up, and it's kind of adorable. Like, I can't with Gwildor. I can't.
So I will say, this is my thing, though. You have all these characters that you introduce as the mercenaries, and none of them are from the cartoon, and for the most part. And so what you do, you then sell those as action figures shortly after it. Did that stop me from getting them? Absolutely not. I had all of them. My favorite was Sarad, because Sarad, you would do this thing on the back, and he shot out sparks. So if nothing's more 80s than the fact of going, hey kids, I had a toy action figure that literally shot fire.
I want to know, was there anyone on that assembly line that's like, you want me to put a piece of flint in here? Yeah, you heard me, right? Isn't this a kid's toy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
He's sparky.
Literally just... I'm glad I just did that.
Yeah, he did a hand motion and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
You get, and I know where. So you get the mercenaries, the mercenaries are a function of Mattel really put their sword in the sand, if you will, and said we can't watch. He-Man's not allowed to kill anyone in the movie.
Yes.
So they made robot mercenaries that, if my recollection serves me right, are not part of the lore of Masters of the Universe either.
You mean the guys all in the black suits,
yes,
right?
Yeah. So they're robots because Mattel said, well, He-Man can't kill anyone, and we feel very strongly about that.
It's really important to note, though, at no point do they say that. At no point is it clear that they are? That's literally just something during the press.
I was this many years old when I found out that they were robots. Because I just assumed they were guys in armor, stormtroopers.
They were like stormtroopers. All right. Is this the time?
Yeah.
I mean, this movie
It's
tries
Star
to
Wars.
Star
It's
Wars
literally
hard.
Star Wars, yeah. It's like if Han Solo had to go to Earth for a little bit.
Yes.
Like, it's Star Wars a lot. And I can understand why. Like, you have something that, was a successful film and toy property. And has worked really well. I get trying to pull from this. This was, and I think because in so many ways, there's a genre and audience expectation of how these films are supposed to unload, or not unload, but unravel. Like, and I think, like, there's a certain amount here of, like, they're begging and borrowing and stealing from a lot of different places. And I think that's why it feels kind of cobbled together, because it didn't pick a lane. It needed to pick a tone that was, I think, more similar or more genuine to the cartoon. If you wanted to pull some of the humor out of it, so maybe it would have, like, an older appeal, that would totally make sense. But I think, there's, like, no denying all the times in this movie where I'm like, well, that's obviously something you wrote from Star Wars. That's something you wrote from, like, obviously the whole openings were from Superman. Like, there's so many influences of, like, 80s sci-fi within this film.
That was my mom's biggest complaint. When I remember on the drive home, she just kept being like, they just tried to do Star Wars.
Yeah. And I kind of, and again, like, I get it, but I think it doesn't do it enough to you go, like, oh, this is almost like an extension of genre versus, we didn't know what to shoot, so we thought, just do it like this scene in Star Wars, is how it feels like the conversations were. We get the high school gym fight. Which just reminds me that there was no security in the 80s at schools.
No. Well, Carl was there.
Yeah, sure. No
Poor
problem.
Carl.
Poor Carl.
Just janitor in there. And
like,
just
Carl dies, right?
No, he gets put into the ambulance.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I still think Carl dies.
All right, we can go down that road if you want. The villains were allowed to kill people, I guess, but just not He-Man.
Yeah. It's the whole, like, the kind of, like, misadventures in Earth, like, it's funny to me because I'm like, I just feel like in a dusty Texas town that news would spread via painted phones or, like, kids on bikes, and that there'd be some sort of, like, band of people going to investigate this. Maybe I'm making a lot of assumptions about Texas, but I just don't feel like this happens without people investigating this. But no one seems to, except the one lone detective who's like, I've got this, guys.
Right. I was trying to figure out how there's, like, no remnants, like, after these big battles that this happened.
Well, okay, so is this, but, like, time resets in the town, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Which,
so does that mean, like, the detective just, like, disappears out of nowhere and no one
he's
knows
just gone.
why?
Yeah.
He's so
Yeah, you're right,
weird.
because they can't even say, hey, we just saw them disappear. I like that, Courtney Cox, we get some good Gale Weathers screams during the gym scene, and that these 4 ultimate mercenaries of Skeletors struggle with her immensely.
She's Courtney Cox. She's awesome. Clearly.
I'm a tiny little woman.
Yeah, it is. It's in a sea of befuddling things. It's a how does she get out of this? Well, it's so she can be cuddled by He-Man.
That's true.
Ever so
That's
gently.
True. Yes. No. I will say, Skeletor's henchmen were always a little bumbling on the show, so it doesn't really not.
So it's, like, not terribly surprising.
Yeah. But I do. What's your thoughts on Courtney Cox in this?
Yeah. 10 out of 10. No issues. Here's the thing. I actually think if you remove Kevin, I think the Earth thing's better with just her. Or if she somehow ends up in if you wanted to do some weird Earth connection like they do a la the Christmas special.
Yeah.
Where the Earth children come to Eternia to explain Christmas.
Yeah.
Even though Christmas is only mentioned maybe, like, in 1 minute of, I think, the entire thing, right?
But
it's, like, really just at the end, right?
He-Man's mom is from Earth, so she should know it, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you applying logic? You think in the writer's room they had a flowchart of, like, hey, guys, just so you know, up here we said she's from Earth. Down here we're sending 2 children to Eternia to explain Christmas.
Fair.
The Christmas special for another day. Ooh, that would make a great Christmas card. Yeah. Anyways, but I do think, like, I think she is doing the best with this. I think it's pretty believable. I kind of like her sense of wonder at everything. I mean, like, terror, of course, but her sense of wonder as to what is going on.
Hold on. When you say wonder, I find that she's a little accepting of all of this real quick.
Like, in a good way, though.
I understand that she just saw these guys come storming through the door, but I still don't know. She's just like, oh, you're from a different universe and a different whatever.
So if you guys like, all right, so if we're out and about, we're getting Starbies, you know, and like you're waiting for your pistachio cold foam brew, and you see a guy walking in a robot suit, you're telling me you're not just going to immediately accept it and go, yep, that seems about right. All your life experience, you're not just going to go, I mean, I didn't write it this way, but I knew it was going this way.
But then the problem is, like, she's so accepting, but she doesn't question when her mom's ghost just all of a sudden appears later.
Dude, I'm going to use a foul language here. I'm going to use a foul language here. Like, what a dick move.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in all of the dick moves.
It's really evil.
It's, like, super evil.
From Evil Lynn.
Yeah, like.
It's in the name, though, Toss. It's in the name.
But, like, that's some. I think even Skeletor would have been like, yo, too far.
I just like that Card finds this random article in the house and just is like, here, Evelyn, this may be important later.
Also, like, do you just have that laying around?
There are also moments that and this is always this kind of fish out of water moments that films, you know, make me laugh with, where I understand we have to sometimes just give up, you know, it's magical reality, so we have to give over to it, but it's like, there are certain aspects that the people from Eternia seem to just adapt to on Earth and not really get confused by.
Okay, because like pick a Lane movie, right? Because like they're eating ribs and Teal's like, this was an animal?
Barbaric.
And Man-at-Arms is like, yeah, totally cool. And she's like, these people suck. And I'm like, but then you just accept, like, I don't know, everything else, like synthesizers and cars and police and like, and barbecue joints. I don't know. I agree. There needed to be, I think you and I can really enjoy fish out of water stories because I think they can be really fun. But I also think that then it has to almost like be an equal measure, because I agree with you. If Courtney Cox is a little bit more mystified and humorous about the fact that there's like this, you know, otherworldly prince who's come to save her in cape and mullet, like that, and then like also them being very confused by Earth practices, I think could have been a lot more fun. Yeah,
completely agree. You know what this movie needed?
What's that?
It needed a pink Cadillac.
You know what it also needed? When the pink Cadillac gets transported, no sense of what parts of the building and the Cadillac came with it. Because I went, so your prop person could only had enough like foam to make the first half of the Cadillac. That's what happened here. You couldn't figure out how to get the full thing into.
It cuts off.
But the cut. Really look at that scene. So what we are talking about is at the end when Gwildor gets them back into the throne room as He-Man's being whipped for a weird amount of time, if we're all being honest with ourselves, and Skeletor's reactions feel weird. But like when that space comes back in, it's like the proportions of the brick wall to bench to Cadillac, it doesn't make sense what got sucked in through the vortex of the cosmic key.
No, and also the fact that it doesn't really go with the rest of the film.
No, it doesn't.
Because I think what they did was they went, oh, we're going to plop them in the middle of the throne room? Well, we need to give them some type of coverage.
But also, question, then why when they went out to Earth, why didn't parts of the throne room come with them? Shenanigans. All right, so...
You sit on a Grayskull throne of lies, movie.
So we get Skeletor on Earth.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen, like...
You mean the Emperor showing up with this?
Oh, God, it's so bad that part. Like, I think I started humming, like, the dun, 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 like, in my head as he came in. I would have loved to have seen Skeletor have to interact with more Earthlings, like a delivery person or, like, someone at the barbecue joint. I would have liked a scene with that. It would have been ridiculous, but I would have appreciated it.
Completely.
And also, you know, and this gives us then, like, the thing that the movie was desperately needing that you alluded to before. I mean, like, He-Man hoverboarding.
It's so bad.
I honestly, there were several times, so if you are a fan of Key and Peele, there is a sketch that we love, and it's supposed to be the writer's room when they're writing Gremlins 2. And it's a guy who comes in, and it's supposed to be, so it's played by Jordan Peele, and it's supposed to be him, like, saying, just throw things out, and they go in the movie. I feel like that had to be this writer's room. Because someone was like, hoverboards are cool. The kids love hoverboards.
I don't think the hoverboards were created at this point.
Well, like, in a science fiction standpoint, there were. Hoverboards had been in other things. Not the, like, Back to the Future Mattel brand one, but, like, hoverboards, like, as, like, a science fiction conception had been in other sci films.
I just always made the assumption a hoverboard concept was created for Back to the Future 2, which didn't come until 1989.
No, that's, like, there are, like, plenty of, like, science fiction texts and things where, like, the notion or the technology of a hoverboard exists prior to this.
Right. I mean,
You have nothing to do with that, and it's fine.
History didn't start for me until 1980.
This is fair. What do you make of He-Man's capture?
I mean, he does the noble thing, which I think is what, Skeletor says to him, right? He's like, well, I don't, when he's like, he gives the line, it made me think of you, and he's like, I don't want innocent people to die. It reminds me of Running Man, when you always quote
There are
Running
innocent
Man.
people down there.
And Skeletor's just like, how noble of you, as he shakes his head in just disgust. It is such an amazing shot.
And I feel like that's actually the humor from the cartoon of him just being like, oh, gross, you're so good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a funny... I don't know. I noticed that this time, like, and this just talks again about the low budget. There's a moment when they're trying to get to the roof of the scene where He-Man's sword just literally falls off.
Yes!
Did you notice?
Yes!
Yes. I like that they give him his good battle scene, but yeah, it feels a little like...
And then I also think it takes a really long time to get to, this is not a long movie. It's an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But I feel like from the roof...
We're going to beat that today.
We're getting there. From the roof to, like, the kind of final battle feels like it takes a long time. And there's a lot of whipping.
We sit so long in the whipping scene and then cutting back to them trying to create the or as I call it, music is magic moment, which is like, we got to figure out a way to create the cosmic key on its own.
Question. What year did Captain EO come out?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. It had to be right around this time.
Because I have to wonder, was this like someone walked through a writing room and was like, hey, yo, like, here's the thing. They're doing this thing for Disney right now.
It's got Coppola and
Francis Ford Coppola thinks that music is magic. Just saying, the cosmic key seems like a synthesizer.
I do. So going back to the throne room, though, there's a couple of moments there that I just do really love. Because the sorceress, which we haven't talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Huge character.
Regina Pickles.
Who is Monica's mom. So do you think when Julie got there, she's like, Mom.
Mom, you're
Friends.
alive.
A lot more Friends on this than I guess we probably, but...
Oh, Courtney Cox is in the movie.
But just such a waste of a character. Like, it's like she's there, but you do nothing with her. I don't know... With knowing her as an actress, I don't know if she would have... Nothing against her as an actress. I think things that I've seen her in, she's really good. I don't see her as a sorceress, and I don't know if she would have done much more if they gave this character much more. But I do love the line here during this moment of, like, men look back on their mistakes, pile them together, and call it destiny.
Like, and I... Truly and honestly, like, there are things in this, and I think that's the thing. I think when it's leaning into the realm of this, where it should have taken place, where it should have just stayed firmly on Eternia with the right budget and the right backing, when those lines are written, this movie is like, okay, this could have been one of the great, like, sci-fi epics.
Yeah.
This really had the potential to be, because you had some really key pieces in place. It's just you wrote this Earth storyline.
He-Man lives and possesses the key. I must possess all, or I possess nothing.
Yeah, like, this is like, and I mean, truly, like, there is an element here, as all great sci-fi epics should feel like, that become, like, kind of Shakespearean, like, this, like, ultimate, like, kind of, like, good and evil, and, like, but really meditating on, like, what those things mean, because, like, Skeletor several times through, now, He-Man's not thinking about this, like, he's too pretty to think, like, but, like, Skeletor's, like, ruminating on, like, what it means to be, like, evil and have power, and he's, like, very aware of his own, like, he knows he's a bad person, but, like, revels in it, and, like, I feel like that character was written well, and those lines were written really profoundly. This happened to be in a movie that doesn't deserve it.
No. But it's got some funny moments. Most of the funny moments, I think, are given to Duncan. And then obviously Lubick. I like Lubick, gives our only curse word through the movie.
Yeah, he does.
With his holy S, line. I also, one of my favorite lines is when He-Man shows up and Lubick just looks out and says, well, what do you know? The mountain comes to Muhammad.
Just like,
and again, it's just such a credit to Gary Tolkien, who just delivers it with such ease and authenticity. It just works really well.
Yeah, and I think this is that's the thing that I think probably makes this something so likable, even for all of its flaws. There's so many moments like this. There's so many people who are doing their best with their material, who have no control over the production. That's kind of the stuff you have to focus on. And here's the thing. And again, anytime you're back in that throne room, you feel like, all right, this is the movie right here. Yeah. This is where it's actually happening. So I think it's the whipping thing feels belabored to get to kind of this final battle moment with He-Man and Skeletor, but I will say that payoff feels kind of great. I mean, what do you make of their battle? You watch them battle so many times on the cartoons.
Skeletor is a golden god scene.
Oh, yeah. You know what I love? Again, someone's no. It has to be different somehow. Yeah. Let's make him gold.
All right, so there's two answers to this question.
Okay.
So there's the reality of what goes on in this scene, and then there is just film watching. I like the scene. I think it's, it goes with the rest of the film, and it leads to this climatic moment. I even will say, I had my moment of when Skeletor, says, I am the master of the universe. And he has his moment.
Yeah,
as a kid, I remember being like,
no.
Why?
Say it ain't so.
I miss those days of buying over into, that.
Oh, shush up. I sit next to you when you watch movies. You give yourself over.
So it's so there is that. So I think, and no, I make jokes about the Golden God Skeletor moment, but it works. But the thing is, so I think it's a cool, neat looking fight visually. You have to have kind of a winner or loser, and you get your He-Man defeats him, Hans Gruber's him out over. So really cool. Really good stuff. The thing with this scene, though, is anybody that's seen it knows that so the lights go out and it's just visually dark and lights. So all of this had to do with. So we've talked a lot about the budget of this movie.
Yeah.
Well, they ran out of money.
No, wait. Is that why the lights are off in this scene? So
what happened was they actually had to tear down the set early. So they tore down the set before the movie was actually supposed to never come out. They ended up shutting down the movie. They Batgirled it. Ugh. Essentially went, we have no more money. You need to tear down the set because I don't know why, but financially they had to get the set torn down. The set gets torn down. They had not filmed the climatic end scene yet. So they eventually, were able to get enough money to allow them to film the last scene. So the only way they could do it, because they didn't have the set anymore, they had to visually do what they did, which is, we talked, Quentin Tarantino, most notably in Kill Bill, goes to black and white to get away from the censors in that final scene because of the blood, where this was, no, we need to film this, but we don't have a set for it, so let's shut the lights off, put some... Because it makes no sense why it's lighted that way during that scene, unless you just want to be
villainy? Yeah. There's a lot of lightning going on in the scene.
So that ends up being why that scene is shot that way.
I did not know that. I just thought this is like a Vision Quest thing. They want to like wrestle with the spotlight on, you know? Like I didn't think much of it as like even watching it this time. I was just like, okay, the lights are out.
I like that you think just somebody's over in the side of your like car, like, wait, the battle's gonna begin.
It's happening, guys.
Turn it down. Turn down the music.
No, I like to think that there's like a character there's like called like Light Ore, and his whole job is just to like be on that dimmer switch. Like
it might be one of those bald gray guys that are in the one scene randomly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. And I love this scene. I can't recall. What's Man-at-Arms doing at this moment? Like, nobody helps him.
No, because the scene just stops.
Like, Julie doesn't help.
It stops because they stop filming.
Yeah.
That's why everybody... The only ones is Evil Lynn and them, like, take off.
Yes. Yeah, because she, like, is like, peace. Like, this is going to get weird.
Yeah, because she sees what's happening.
Yeah.
She also sees that she's been kind of pushed aside a bunch of times with
like,
Skeletor. And
Lady
she's just
Macbeth.
like, we're out, guys.
Yeah, dip, like, right now. Yeah, but, like, because, okay, so that makes sense then of... I mean, because, like, I think Julie could have helped. She took all those mercenaries.
I agree with you.
That girl picked up that space gat like it was no problem. She was just like, I'm from Texas.
Two things with that comment I want to say is, one, I haven't said it, and I will say it now. I do not believe or remember, and if I'm mistaken, I apologize, but I do not remember He-Man ever using guns, but certainly not to the degree that he does in this movie. So that... I hate.
No, I know.
No need. It's not even like a moral thing about guns at this moment. It's just a matter of just feels out of place for the character. He-Man's sword is his thing, man. Like, and his strength.
Yeah.
The thing
so uncivilized.
Julie, though, I agree with you. Like, she actually, the reason she gets, like, taken down by Skeletor is because she tries to protect He-Man.
I know.
Like, so props to Julie.
Because tender bond.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
She's been cuddled in those Eternia arms. She has felt the power.
So now we have finally throne room number 7. No place like home.
Oh my god. Stop ripping off every movie.
I'll miss you most of all, He-Man.
I mean, like, she did. And he's like, essentially, He-Man straight up looks at Kevin dead in the eyes and is like, basically like, take care of my girl. And Kevin's like, I will. And I want to be like, she won't be yours for much longer, Kevin.
Yeah, that's a lot to live up for Kevin. I agree with you. There's no way they make it. I love that Lubick just like, I'm staying here.
Yeah, look at me. Look at these robes.
Right. It's like, I got a beautiful woman. I'm in a castle.
Do you think that like woman's like, yo, like I'm just like here hanging. Like I'm not trying to get booed up here.
Right.
Have you seen the crop in Eternia?
I also don't know why I didn't notice until this time that, like, He-Man's suit's, like, now just, like, bright gold.
I get, because gold.
Yes.
You have the power.
Yes.
Gold. Synthesizers, gold, time travel.
Listen,
80s movie.
I cheered in the theater when He-Man grabs the sword and says,
yeah,
I have the power. But again... Dang it, did we get kind of hosed? Like,
Why?
do the whole thing, man. It's by the power of Grayskull, you know? Like, come on. Like, so we got a little hosed with that. But, yeah, I like the scene. Are we going to talk about the fact, then, of Gwilda just has the power to time travel them?
Yeah, one, it doesn't occur to her until she's being sucked through the thing that maybe she should have asked to go back a little further.
Yeah, because he straight up says, do you want to go to a different place in time?
And she's like, nah, can't think of anything I'd want to retcon from my life. Bye! Do you think she was like, does that mean I won't have met He-Man? I can't live in that reality.
Well, here's my question. So he sends them back in time.
But they have all their memories of this time.
Okay. And I don't want to try to sit at this. Does that mean then that the events, because of Masters of the Universe, didn't happen? Like, what happens to Lubick? Did he just... Is there another version of Lubick?
No, that's what I'm saying.
For this portion? Or does he disappear in this place in time?
I think all that stuff happened. I think Lubick's up there, but I think it probably makes it even more confusing what ended up happening to him because they probably would put a missing persons report. Like, I don't know. He may have family. We don't know.
Yeah, this time travel thing is a bunch of BS.
Yeah, no, it really is. But, you know, listen, they have to go back and they have to write most of the tragedies of the film. Because the tragedy they don't write is that nightgown she is wearing in that bed.
I literally...
Is this the goddamn prairie?
Literally have in my notes, what the hell is Julie wearing? Thank you for saying that.
And also, her parents are rude AF. She goes downstairs and she's like, please don't go. And they're like, Julie, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, look at this girl. She looks desperate. And then I love that she's just like, well, I'm going to take the keys. Ha ha ha. Like, you know.
Yeah, again, a little bit of a problem here. Like, this is a very Kevin McAllister moment. Like, your parents just came back from the dead, and you're like, 30 seconds, see ya!
I think Julie might be an idiot. Okay, never mind. She's not full of wonder. I think she's too full of wonder.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know. I feel like if you roll up downstairs and your formerly deceased parents are there and looking dapper as all get up, looking good, and you come downstairs and they're there, I feel like you're not just like hugging them, smiling, and like, bye, I gotta go tell Kevin that you're alive.
Yeah.
And I love how Kevin...
Like a quick phone call.
And I love how Kevin rolls up to her in what is clearly Marty McFly's neighborhood. Rolls up to her on the street and he's like, tell your parents not to go. If you remember, you think Julie doesn't remember? Think Kevin. Maybe they deserve each other.
I'm still staying home and studying.
So bizarre. And this movie doesn't just conclude there.
It does not.
What do we get, Tassi, at the end of this film?
I'll be back. But he wasn't. He wasn't back.
He wasn't back.
So those who don't know, there is a post-credit scene to this of Skeletor, who had not died, because He-Man's not allowed to kill anybody, pops up in some, I don't know, liquid, and pops up out of there and says...
Primordial goo.
says breaks the fourth wall and tells us in the camera that he'll be back. This is extremely significant. This scene.
Yes.
Do you know why?
Because Marvel.
Exactly. And he is quoted at this. Kevin Feige has been quoted as saying, literally, and referencing Masters of the Universe, as talking about how when he was young watching films, those types of things just thought was the coolest thing. So this and Ferris Bueller is why he made them put in Iron Man the post-credit scene.
You're absolutely making this up.
100%. So you guys can have any feelings that you want about Masters of the Universe, but it gave us the Marvel Universe.
You've just hit the pinnacle of your fun facts. Nothing is going to be more fun after this. It's all downhill from here.
That's fair.
That blew my mind.
Yeah. So
fascinating. Okay. So, obviously what a post-credit scene indicates is that there's supposed to be something that comes later. But as we all know, nothing came. So in the fun category that I actually think is a lot of fun with this movie, although normally I tell you I hate this category, but I find this one a lot of fun. Prequel, sequel, remake, reboot. What the hell happened to your beloved franchise?
Oh, right.
With just the richest depth of characters, but no follow-up.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, and probably from everybody listening at this point can tell, is obviously canon financially, was in big problems. And so what the canon had the rights to He-Man, had the rights to Superman 4, and had the rights to Spider-Man. They went to go, what their plan was to make He-Man, Masters of the Universe, and make Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, put them out around the same time.
Dope title, no notes.
Financially, those films would do amazing because they were, too big to miss.
Yeah.
Too big to fail. And then from there, they would make their Spider-Man movie. So, needless to say, Masters of the Universe and Superman 4 were not very big hits. Critically panned, neither did well at the box office. They started trying to create Spider-Man during this time, but at this point, they just were completely in the red and fell apart. So what ends up happening was they were starting to try to put together, there was a script, there was director, there was a different actor that was going to play He-Man in the sequel.
Laird Hamilton, right?
Okay,
the famous surfer.
Is that who? Okay, yeah, that sounds right. So they had everything ready to go. They started to build some of the sets. But then at this point, they just fell apart. They were starting to create a little bit of the Spider-Man stuff. They end up repurposing all of that, including the script, which got tweaked, to make the Jean-Claude Van Damme 1989 classic, Cyborg.
If they make Spider-Man in this timeline, if it actually comes to fruition, is it Michael J. Fox that plays Peter Parker?
No, I think he's too old.
You think he's too old at that point? He looks so boyish for so long.
He does.
He'd make a good Peter Parker.
Yeah. I think he was starting to even age out of high school by part 2 and part 3.
Yeah. I still bought it.
But I feel that. I mean, he would have been a great,
Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He would have been,
Yeah, it's a great
I mean,
casting.
I love the universe of Spider-Man films that we have, so it's like,
But
no
instead,
shade.
what we're going to reverse that in is whenever we get our remake of Back to the Future, although Tom Holland might be starting to get too old for Marty McFly at this point.
It's like, I almost, like, is there, like, I mean, here's the thing. I think Tom Holland's going to look pretty boyish for a while, but he's starting, you can just tell in his physique, he's starting to look older.
But yeah, so unfortunately, yeah, that ends up being why we never get Skeletor back, as he so, famously told us. And instead, if you want to see the script for Master of the Universe Part 2, watch Cyborg. So that's unfortunate. Your question is, should we have any of these movies? My answer is undoubtedly yes, we should have all of these. And they've been trying to make another live action for years.
Yes.
If you're a Masters Universe fan, you know this, but maybe not. This film keeps getting announced. We've had John Woo as a director attached, Ang Lee as a director attached. I believe Joel Silver at one point was going to produce. We've had multiple, Kellen Lutz was one time attached to be He-Man.
He could have made a good He-Man.
Yeah, no, you're right. He had definitely the vibe and look. Jason Lewis, who was notably from Sex and the City, he was for years attached. I think he was Ang Lee's He-Man.
He would have been, yeah, and then same thing, like that kind of stature, that chiseled jaw.
And then for the last 3 years, we had Noah, I believe it's Centonio. He was in Black Adam recently, and but he was really attached. He literally just dropped out recently. There is a gentleman that now is attached to it. This is supposed to be coming out on Netflix in 2024, 2025. I have a hard time seeing this actually again coming to fruition. The other gentleman, I apologize. I don't know his name. I know he was in, I believe, West Side Story. But one of the secondary characters, not one of the leads. So, so I don't know. It's hard to see we'll ever have it. And if we do, I'm skeptical of what we'll get if we're going to get another kind of version of this where it's a half-hearted, studio too much involved moment.
Well, I do think that the thing that'll automatically get corrected is you won't have the Earth component, right? Because even on a lesser budget, they can probably cobble something together that would look like Eternia or feel immersive like Eternia because the technology is there to be able to do so. I do think this will happen at some point. It's just there has to be like a thought that there's a profitable audience still there. I hate to say this, but like your late 80s generation is starting to not become the target demo anymore as towards like, whose nostalgia are they trying to pick at? That's now becoming more like 90s nostalgia is more the thing. You see like a All That reunion coming up. Like there's that 90s moment is kind of getting like, monopolized on right now. But if in a fantasy world, who would you see in your cast? Tell us, how would you recast Masters of the Universe?
So, oh my gosh. So I'm like nervous. No. Fantasy world, doing it right now, if I were to create it, no budgets. So I took a bunch of characters. I will read through kind of quickly. So the sorceress, I'm going to go actually with Lupita Nyong'o.
Oh, God, yeah.
So I think she would...
I believe she has all the power and can do anything.
Yes. I think she would... King Randor and Queen Marlena, who I'm bringing into the movie, so He-Man's parents. Jeff Bridges and Sigourney Weaver.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Ram Man, Nick Frost.
Yes.
Then I'm going to go with, my film's going to have She-Ra. I'm going Blake Lively.
Oh my God, gorgeous.
Yeah, I think she could.
She
really,
looks flawless all the time. She would be such a good She-Ra.
Evil Lynn, I have 3 options for you.
Okay,
You tell me which one.
Yes,
like okay.
Go for
Evil Lynn, I have Alexandra Daddario.
Of course you do. But okay.
Lucy Boyden.
Oh, okay.
Anya Taylor-Joy. I know I've been saying Anya, and I've been recently told that it may be Anya Taylor-Joy.
It is Anya Taylor-Joy. Anya Taylor-Joy. So here's the thing, because like Alexandra Daddario has like that the piercing blue eye thing,
Yes.
but I think I'd love to see like Anya Taylor-Joy play someone like Soupy Evil.
100%.
Yeah. Good picks.
Man at Arms, Nick Offerman.
Yeah. Oh. Come on, that power stash.
I had a couple of different Tilas. I apologize. This age may not work with Man-at-Arms being Tila's father, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Oh, yeah. I think, make it work. It's fine. Nick Offerman he's one of those actors that looks like he could play older or
yes,
down.
I agree. Yeah, because he's younger than, not to say that he looks old, but he's younger than you realize.
It's his vibe and
Yeah.
it's how he dresses and how he carries himself. You think he's older.
So then I'm going to have I wanted to bring in at least a couple of, I could go all day about henchmen for Skeletor. But I had to go with Beastman, Jason Momoa.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm bringing in, there's a character, I don't know if you know of the character, there's a character called Too Bad.
Yes.
So basically one character, two heads, kind of comical a little bit. I think maybe Bill Hader and Ben Schwartz would do a really great job of playing Too Bad and playing off of each other.
It's your birthday, so I won't say anything.
And then finally, we get to our two. So Skeletor I have as Timothy Oliphant.
Yes. Yes. Back that entirely.
Orko, Andy Serkis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
And then finally, my He-Man, Glenn Powell.
I don't know.
Thank you for reducing my, childhood
I mean, I'm not complaining.
fandom into
I'm so sorry. It was just
purr.
It was a purr. No, I actually really like that. I think what Glenn Powell would bring to it, because he's shown in other roles and certainly like in Top Gun Maverick, he can do this. I think he'd bring like a nice little edge of humor to it that would make it really, really fun. Because I think some of the other actors that have been cast in He-Man, it's obviously for the physicality and the more serious part, but Prince Adam's kind of cheeky, and I think Glenn Powell would do the cheeky really well.
Yeah. Agreed.
Someone make that movie, please.
Please do it. Please do it. And give me Prince Adam. Give me all of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spectacle upon spectacle. Big sets, big costumes.
But this is the thing where Kevin Smith did right. I mean, I get it that people had an issue with the lack of He-Man and Skeletor. Sure. So take that aside. He opened up that world to what we wanted to see, and I think that's what we need to see in a film.
Give it like 5 years. I think this thing is going to happen. I don't think the Netflix thing is going to happen, but I do think that this film will eventually get made. Well, hey, thanks, Brian, for giving us a reason to talk about Masters of the Universe. When we started out this podcast, I never would have thought that this would have happened, although I think I should have anticipated that this would have happened.
How could you not anticipate that I would pick Masters of the Universe at some point?
Right. If you're not currently following us on social media, you can follow us at How Could You Podcast on Instagram, at How Could You Pod on Twitter. You can find our episodes uploaded to YouTube at youtube.com/How Could You Podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/How Could You Podcast. You can find out announcements about Nostalgia Cinema, First Saturday Horror Series, all the things going on with Jordan Films, cool things happening at Compact Disc Center, and upcoming episodes, including the cocktail of the pod, which is called The Prince Adam, because I missed his presence in this movie. My love, I love all of the things that you get super geeked out about, even if they are remarkably bad. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so very much. I enjoy this life we get to live together.
Yes.
And until next time, to all of you, good journey.